Everyone knows about Superman, the Man of Steel who came from Krypton and fights for truth, justice, and the American way. However, just as worthy of our attention is his cousin, Supergirl, who while younger than Superman, has had just as interesting a history. Supergirl was the creation of Otto Binder and Al Plastino, although DC Comics had made some attempts beforehand to create a female counterpart to Superman. Even Lois Lane was turned into Superwoman for a few issues. Supergirl's first official appearance came in May 1959, and her backstory involved Argos City, which managed to survive the destruction of Krypton. Eventually, Kara Zor-el, as she is so named, is placed in a pod and sent to Earth. Posing as an orphan, her alter ego is Linda Lee, and she attempts to fit into this strange new planet. Earth's yellow sun, superpowers, helping humankind, you can probably fill in the blanks. However, despite being derivative of her famous cousin, Supergirl still manages to craft her own identity. Unlike Clark Kent and his steady employment at the Daily Planet, Linda Lee hops from job to job and makes her own friends. Unlike Clark's use of glasses and a nerdier personality to disguise its alter ego, Kara wears a black wig over her blonde hair. Which disguise is more unbelievable? I'll let you decide. Supergirl also has her fair share of enemies to defeat, including Lex Luthor's niece and one of her most notorious foes, the Silver Banshee. Supergirl was a frequent mainstay of the comics and became a well-established and popular addition to the canon. And then DC killed her off. Yep, apparently they felt there were too many Kryptonians flying around and decided to do away with Supergirl. A few new Supergirls were introduced, most notably Linda Danvers. She mostly existed to fill the hole left by Supergirl's death. But rather than an alien, she is a regular human who gains superpowers. Otherwise, she's more or less the same character. Kara Zor-el did eventually return to the DC Comics universe with a somewhat changed origin story that has become the accepted history. This Supergirl is left in suspended animation, while Kal-El grows older and turns into Superman. So rather than becoming his babysitter like originally planned, it's Kal-El that ends up inspiring her to don the famous symbol, put on a costume, and fight crime. While Supergirl has not had as many pop culture appearances as Superman, she has managed to show up a good number of times on television. And one crummy movie. In 1984, the producers of the Superman movies made Supergirl, which unfortunately is closer to the quality of Superman 3 and 4. With Helen Slater playing the role, the Supergirl movie somewhat followed the origin story of the comics and definitely tried hard to replicate the feeling of the previous Superman movies. The problem is they went too far into camp territory. Slater is not bad in the lead role, and she does okay with the secret identity aspect of the character. However, the script is weak and did not do enough to make Supergirl an interesting enough heroine. She's also given a dull love interest, and while the producers and director Jeanette Swock tried to get Christopher Reeve to make a cameo as Superman, all they could get was Mark McClure's Jimmy Olsen. Despite the DC Comics villains at their disposal, the filmmakers instead elected to have Supergirl face off against a witch played by an overacting Faye Dunaway. They even give her a comedic sidekick, not unlike Lex Luthor's lackey Otis in the first two Superman movies. The action scenes are not directed in any exciting way, and the movie just cannot escape the cheesiness and campiness that had started to plague the franchise at that point. I would certainly take Supergirl over Superman 3 and Superman 4, because at least there isn't Richard Pryor doing tired comedic routines, or Meteor Man. But it was still a disappointing screen debut for Kara Zor-el. Over a decade later, Supergirl made her animation debut in Superman the Animated Series. Her origin was slightly modified to not be Kal-El's cousin, and her design was closer to the Linda Danvers incarnation of the character. As voiced by Nicole Tom, she showed the need to help people and save the day, despite Superman's uncertainty at whether she can be a superhero. Supergirl even made a guest appearance on the Batman animated series, teaming up with Batgirl. A few years ago, Supergirl finally got a starring role worthy of her name, with the television series from Greg Berlanti. I watched the first two seasons, and I think the show is a delightful piece of superhero entertainment. It has a vibe similar to the Richard Donner superhero movie, with the right amount of optimism and hope, while still working for modern sensibilities. Melissa Benoist was the perfect choice to play Kara/Supergirl, capturing her need to help others while also throwing in some character flaws that flesh her out in an interesting way. The writers on the show took some inspiration from Jeff Loeb's recent origin story, which means Superman is already well established in the show's universe, thus creating an added layer of pressure for Supergirl to live up to. Curiously, Kara keeps using her own Kryptonian name on Earth, while taking her foster parents' surname, giving her the name Kara Danvers. I'm sure Marvel appreciated that. While the comic book Supergirl wore a wig, the television iteration decides to go the Clark Kent route and just wear glasses. Kat Grant, the head of the news magazine she works for, clearly knows Kara is Supergirl, because, I mean, come on. One of my favorite aspects of the series is the relationship between Kara and her Earth sister Alex, an agent for the Department of Extranormal Operations. They genuinely care for each other, even during occasional moments of disagreement. One of the best episodes is one where Kara gets infected by red kryptonite, and we see Alex trying her hardest to get her out of her evil state. The show also includes Superman in a few episodes, and its humor seeing the dynamic between Supergirl and her cousin, played excellently by Tyler Hoechlin. Supergirl does utilize a few too many love triangles for my liking, but the show does air on the CW, and it's almost a requirement on that channel. Also, for such an important government organization, the DEO has some of the worst security. They're a secret agency, and yet so many characters find out about their inner workings. Otherwise, Supergirl was a highly entertaining superhero series with solid writing, a good set of characters, and a great showcase for its titular heroine. Supergirl has often been seen as just the female counterpart to Superman, so it's great to see her finally getting the attention she deserves. See you next time.